Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming today and attending our panel. We're here to talk to you today about the Shiprocket and CII report on the India D2C panel, India D2C Report 2022. Really excited to have a very esteemed panel with me here today. Some of the brightest minds in the country running some of the hottest startups. Without further ado, let me briefly introduce our panel today. We have Aryaman Tandon, who's the co-founder and managing partner of Praxis. He's the guy who helped us write this report. We have Gade from Country Delight. He's the co-founder there, one of the hottest startups in the dairy products and now across food category space. We have Amit Khatri, co-founder of Noise, a brand that needs no introduction in the electronic space. Bharat Sethi from Rage Coffee. Nitin Bhardwaj, who's the co-founder and CEO of Radiohead Brands, otherwise known as Jimmy Cocktails. Mani Dev Gyawali, co-founder New Shop. Sanil Sachar, founder of Huddle. And Umair Mohammed, founder and CEO of Wigzo. Welcome to the panel, everybody, and thank you for taking the time today to speak with us. Really appreciate it. This is really a momentous occasion, both for CII and Shiprocket, because we've been working on this report for some time. And finally, when we got Praxis, Aryaman, and the entire team on board, we were really happy that we've been able to bring this report out, and actually at a very opportune time where D2C has become a very big buzzword in the industry. So without further ado, I'm going to actually leave it to Aryaman to talk a little bit more about the report, about what the findings have been, and starting with him, and then we'll go around the panel with all our panelists today to speak to them specifically about their experience and their brands and how they've grown.
Thanks a lot, Akshay. And it's been an extremely exciting journey working on this report together, and I'm pretty happy to be part of this panel today. So, just to answer your question, Akshay, what I'll do is let me spend a little bit of time on why we did this report, right? And then I'll talk about the key insights and the most important takeaways. I think on why, if we look at Indian economy as a whole, I know it's a very generic topic, but there are a couple of very interesting points of us in our economy which will create a lot of inflection in the next 5 years. We'll have close to 500 million online shoppers in the next 5 years. We'll have 1.3 billion internet users. E-commerce, which is 70 billion upwards, will triple. It will reach about 215 to 220 billion in the next 5 years. Another very interesting phenomenon which will happen is we will add 100 million households in the middle class section in the next by 2030. And if you multiply that by the per capita income or household income, that creates a 1 trillion new economy which has never existed before. These are completely new households, 100 million households. That's equivalent to an Indonesia or a Saudi Arabia, a completely new country. And this is middle class, by the way. This is not the lower income strata. What it means is it's going to create a huge opportunity for newer brands, newer products, newer consumer lifestyles, and which is why a lot of domestic generated brands, which will be created. Another very important factor is, if you look at India, we are already the third largest economy in the world by PPP. What that means is, from a consumption and production standpoint, and if you remove the value of the dollar, etc., we're already the third largest economy. And what that means is, it has a huge domestic stability in terms of production and consumption of goods and more than services. And that is why, all the more reason, there's a huge opportunity for direct-to-consumer brands. And the other reason is, if you look at, for the past 30 to 40 years, there are close to 15 million plus retail outlets in India. It's one of the most penetrated offline retail country in the world. That means one retail outlet per 100 people. And you will see a Coca-Cola or an ITC cigarette or a lot of different products being available at all of these retail outlets. And what that means is, a lot of these brands have created, traditional brands, a phenomenal distribution network. Maybe not the most efficient, but a very wide coverage distribution network not seen in any other geography. But e-commerce is completely disrupting that, and it's creating completely new opportunities for new age brands. And I think one more reason is, we worked for 25 plus deals in the last year itself in the D2C space. We've done work with close to 75 plus P funds. We've seen a lot of capital go into these businesses. And so very misunderstood and a not well understood space, the D2C space. And that's why you realize that we have so much of learning, and with the partnership of Shiprocket, we want to do this report. So a couple of interesting, takeaways from this report. One, the entire D2C opportunity today, which is adding all the revenue done by D2C brands. In D2C, we mean brands who bypass the traditional distribution network. They may still distribute traditionally, but their genesis has been as an online first, e-commerce first brand. The total opportunity today is 12 billion. We expect that to become 60 billion in the next 5 years, which is huge. Another very important takeaway from the report is if you add up all the online sales done by traditional as well as D2C brands from their own e-commerce website, not marketplaces, not social commerce, not offline. Your own e-commerce presence, that's close to 5 billion today. And that's expected to be about 22 billion. So there's going to be a huge growth in the D2C and the own commerce space in the next 5 years. Another, what we've also done as part of this report is we've looked at close to 8 to 10 categories. We've tried to analyze which categories are the most attractive for a D2C play. We've looked at various parameters, for example, ability to create new products, ability to sell to consumers online, consumer affinity to buy products online, a lot of how difficult, what is the kind of economics while selling online, can you fulfill the products and logistically sort of distribute the products online, and look at all that behavior and arrive at which categories are the most attractive for a D2C play. We of course see, no surprises, but grocery, food and beverages, apparel, electronics, beauty and personal care, hygiene emerge as some of the most attractive categories. Over last 2 to 3 years, we've done close to, I would say, about 100 to 200,000 consumer surveys looking at D2C categories. Especially for this report, we spoke to close to 1,000 consumers. We've looked at the propensity and we've looked at, what's their behavior buying online, propensity to buy from D2C brands directly. And at the end, we've also looked at, what's the future potential and which categories are likely to grow. And we are very excited to release this report, in partnership with CII and Shiprocket. Akshay, that's from me.
Thanks, Aryaman. And again, equally excited, and you spoke about the own channel. So I'm going to start with you, Chakri. Country Delight disrupted an industry which for many years hadn't seen any disruption. And own channel was your primary mode of selling. So would love to know a little bit about that journey and where you see the road ahead for D2C and grocery and gourmet and food essentials, especially the category that you're in.
Hi, Akshay. Thanks for having me here. Basically, Country Delight is a direct-to-home consumer brand where we deliver fresh food essentials from the farmer all the way to the doorstep of the customer. We currently serve nearly 300,000 households. We cover 16 cities. We have supply chain that spans 11 states, which is fairly a very large supply chain for a reasonably smallish medium company like ours. We're currently $100 million revenue, around $125 million revenue business. So what journey of Country Delight has started basically by trying to solve customer problems in the basic food essentials. So, these are industries which are heavily organized and heavily unorganized. So what I mean by that is if you take milk, for example, which is a core category where we deliver directly to a household, there is a 3-4 decade old industry which is organized this space. But the product that comes to the customer is not fresh where the customer assumes it to be fresh. It is not natural and essentially it's a recombined product. On the other hand, you have a big unorganized space which basically where the quality of the product is inconsistent and you're not finding it reliable. So we found a space in between where we wanted to differentiate the product for the customer that we are giving by charging a marginal premium. So we call ourselves a mass premium brand, where we deliver pure and fresh product directly to the doorstep of the customer. And over time, when we started it, we thought that, you enter with a premium-ish value proposition and you cover the entire basket because you're building a pipe with a pipe to the doorstep with something as basic as milk. But we realized that, giving a good quality product in a consistent way is a very big opportunity. And then we started looking at it as a mass premium proposition, where we are looking at any household which has an annual income of $10,000 and above, which is roughly 30% of around any city that you take in India. And when we started with milk, then we started with milk value-added products, fruits and vegetables, breads, eggs, and we started realizing that there's a very consistent theme, and this is an opportunity to really disrupt the way people have been consuming these products. Because with the traditional supply chain of the retail and the wholesaler and the aggregator-driven models, the customer is not getting a fresh product, and especially in perishables, freshness leads to better quality of the product that you're getting. And because you're able to give this kind of a product, you're essentially changing the way people consume. So you don't have to consume keep something in your fridge for a long time. You can order fresh every day, consume fresh every day. And our intent is to disrupt the entire food essential space with this kind of a promise. And this promise wouldn't have been possible a couple of decades back.
No, absolutely, and I guess I'll just ask you a quick follow-up question is, when you're trying to compete, you said like in an industry which was organized about 3 decades ago and mass market huge brands, and when you try to compete as a startup and as a D2C brand, what are some of the initial challenges you faced and how did you get over that?
So the first challenge is we didn't know how to differentiate ourselves. So, and the way we figured it out was by basically being a consumer first brand. Because these industries have been organized, there is a certain method of working that they've built over time. And when we looked at it again in the first principles basis, that, what are the real problems and pain points that are unsolved by the industry in general. And that helped us take a very new and innovative approach. The first few years were very tough because we were discovering everything on the way. We were setting up sourcing, we were setting up processing, we were setting up last mile, and then integrating everything with tech, and then building a consumer value proposition that sort of explains everything while giving a better product for the customer. But today we feel that there is a big opportunity here, because by being a perishable in the perishable category and by doing it direct to home, you're having full control over the supply chain, and you're able to give a fundamentally better product at a reasonable price that is affordable to most of the households that are out there.
Absolutely, thanks so much, Chakri. Now on to you, Amit. Again, Noise rather. I keep on saying Go Noise because of your website. Noise is a brand which is, it's come up in a very competitive space. It's come up straddling both the marketplace side of selling as well as the own channel side of selling, and created a niche for itself as a quality branded product. In an industry which is very, very competitive, in an industry which is also very cutting edge, where they adopt new technologies. Would love to understand how you guys have really built this brand and this cult following that you have behind your product.
Thanks, Akshay. Noise we are one of the leading brands in the country for wearable for last 2 years. Wearable mean smart watches basically, and we are top 10 in the globe actually. In APAC, we are top 3. So, we, as business, Noise started solving a problem for ourselves where we were trying to find out good quality product, and we realized that there is a huge gap in the Indian market as compared to West or other Southeast Asian countries. And we started primarily with mobile covers actually. And then we realized that there is a huge, this category is low indulgence. It's a 400 rupees ASP product and you can't do much. And we were doing a business primarily through marketplaces that time. And that time there was a downward pressure. So we realized that if you have to build something, there has to be a differentiated product offering, and that's on we started into wearable as a space. And we always wanted to be, we always wanted to do from our website first, because it helped us controlling the consumer experience and trying to solve the problem which we thought was right. So, differentiated offering in this a market which has got 200 odd brands has really helped us in shaping it up, and our channel actually contributes more than 15% of the current sales, which I think is highest in our competitive landscape.
No, absolutely. And when we talk about own channel specifically, Amit, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you were trying to, because it's getting consumers onto your own website is very, very hard, right? There's a lot of pardon the pun, but there's a lot of noise out there, right? There's people running ads on absolutely everything that you can think of online. So when you started thinking of, I really want to prioritize my own channel, I want to be able to communicate directly with customers, what are some of the key steps that you took as a brand to be able to create that identity online?
So, when we started our business online on our website first, so the bigger challenge is we are competing with likes of Amazon and Flipkart. So, first of all, there is a trust. I mean, everybody would close their eyes and buy from Amazon. It was very difficult for them to convince them to buy from a portal which is not known. I mean, and when you compete with them, see, it's about deliveries. You order today at Amazon in the morning, you get by evening. So, those are the kind of challenges we keep on facing, but delivering the right product, having the consistent quality has really helped us in gaining that trust. And now the kind of ecosystem which is coming up, like Shiprocket itself, the hyperlocal thing, the kind of consumer experience you're trying to control, that is really helping us out.
Well, that's brilliant. I think you guys have a phenomenal product. Like you said, I'm a fan. Bharat, going now to Rage Coffee, which is, again, you compete in an intensely competitive sector, right? You have the big FMCG players who've been here for many, many years, and they're on television, they're everywhere. On cricket matches many years ago, you could see all these brands out there. And you've built a brand which a lot of people now swear by, right? They'll absolutely love it. So would love to understand your journey, because I know you're very passionate about brand. Every time I've spoken to you keep on talking about it. And how you've been able to create a niche for your product. Again, I'm really excited today that we've had people on the panel who've actually created substantial businesses in very competitive sectors, right? So would love to understand a little bit more about how you've been able to build this brand behind Rage Coffee and what's the future.
Right. So I think all disruption, in every category has to happen in competitive spaces, because if the market is not large enough, there will be very little scope to actually have any meaningful impact on that category. So if you look at some niche categories or subcategories, it's easier to get into those categories, but it is very difficult to change consumer behavior, especially in a country like India, where brand awareness is there today, but brand loyalty is very low. So I feel, to your point about competitive spaces, so we were very clear, and to me it was on all the competition, looks very. All the landscape looks very competitive on the face of it. When you start deep diving into any category, you will see lots of gaps, and be it electronics, be it apparels, be it food and beverage, I have personally seen that, to me, a duopolistic market, which was ours, almost 70% of the packaged format coffee is controlled by two large players. To me, that was a huge opportunity for disruption, actually. And as you rightly mentioned, that these brands were not necessarily serving the best product. They were winning the market by sheer power of distribution. And if there was an opportunity to break into that power of distribution, there would be many new opportunities and preferences and new consumer behaviors that will kind of come up. So, that's what we thought when we started. This is still, this is about 4 years back. Now to look at the current landscape, I think there's a huge population, at least in every category, the share of online market has gone up in COVID. And that is not going to come down. So I think the opportunity there is very large. How we've been able to build a brand is just by focusing on the fundamentals. Great product, that's the starting point. A fundamentally differentiated product, that's the starting point. Then you obviously have to understand a consumer segment really well. Who are you targeting to? What does this consumer do? Do you own the consumer? And that's where D2C comes in. To me, which is a mindset. We were very firm believers of the omni-channel model even when we started, which was that we can build the brand online, but if in any category distribution is only online, you'll not be able to have any meaningful impact. So that's what we did. We created a great, fundamentally differentiated product, had a DNA of digital first thinking, which is utilization of the power of data. to make all the choices related to sales, marketing, and new product development, hiring also for that matter. And today we are at a stage where we're just focused on aggressive distribution. So I think, and to us, distribution can be online or offline. That is, I mean, we don't think of online versus offline. I think that debate is long over. D2C is a mindset. D2C is the genesis of a company, and that's what we've been doing.
No, absolutely, Bharat, I agree with you. I think D2C is more about having a direct line with the consumer and being able to control the brand and the narrative. And absolutely, today it has to be online and offline both, especially in sectors like FMCG. Nitin, let's talk about Jimmy Cocktails now. When you first began, it was an offline retail first model. And then obviously during the pandemic, you started having a huge online presence as well. And you were in a very different space, right? You're trying to build a category which has traditionally not really existed in India, the ready-to-mix cocktail, the premixes, so to speak. And you're actually trying to get people to change consumer behavior. Bharat alluded to this a little bit earlier as well. So would love to understand what approach you've taken when you've actually gone to a category which is not really fully built out yet.
You are right, Akshay. Actually, we are here to build something which is not there as of now, but then in consumers' mind, the cocktail category already exists in people's mind because it's a huge category in the on-premise space inside the bars. We brought out the convenience for the consumers if they want to consume it outside the bar as well, in home, in party, in corporate parties, in institutions. So that's how we brought it out. And then, yes, consumer education is the key, like the communication for the consumers, like it is now available for you to make it the better cocktail at home as well. So that's how we started. Yes, we started with the offline first brand, but then over the last 2 years, then pandemic completely shift our thing, because the paradigm shifts completely from after the lockdown, the completely shift to the online thing by the consumers. And that's how when we started online, we had to start it because everything was shut. And then when we realized, then because this gave us opportunity directly to talk to consumers, like what kind of drinks they want to have, what kind of the experience they are getting. So that's how we we were rectifying our recipes as well, for all the classic cocktails. And that's how we started, and we found that our D2C is a very, very relevant channel for us to have that opportunity to talk to consumers. And that's how, in the last 2 years' time, we also have seen that all the young consumers who are into colleges right now, who will become the consumers for future, they are completely into an online thing. Like they have the experience to get everything online. They're searching online, sitting at home, even getting the education online. So how they will become the consumers for future. And that's how the D2C is really, really important. And it started giving us almost like a 40% the contribution for our sales. But then yes, if you talk about the beverage thing, then who thought like if one want to have a Coke, then no one is ready to go to the coke.com and ordering for Coke. They just rely on the neighborhood stores, and that's how the beverage category is all about. But then with all the new category if you are building, then the online channel, the D2C is really, really important for you. That's how we have decided that the online channel is a key for us, for our success as well. And that's how we are also building, because if you have the opportunity to even giving the education to the consumers online, and that is actually helping us in a offline offtakes as well. If you are into neighborhood stores, but then you're giving the education to consumers online, and that's how it is helping us this thing. Like now, quick commerce is really shaping up because we talk about like we always prefer that our online website sales is more, but that quick commerce now came in and they have started, getting the major contribution from themselves. But then yes, after a period of time, I think we will also get the different like dark store models kind of things, where we can actually getting back the contribution from our own website.
Absolutely, and I think yeah, quick commerce is definitely a trend that is really picking up in India, and quick commerce is not necessarily the 15-minute delivery only that everyone talks about. There's a lot more to it. Of course, the media has captured the imagination with 15-minute deliveries, but that's a great segue, and I'm going to go on to our next panelist, Mani, because the new shop is helping D2C brands basically cater to this whole quick commerce wave, give them distribution that traditionally has not been available. So would love to know, and given that you lead technology at New Shop as well, would love to know how you're using technology to be able to create this new channel of quick commerce as well as provide D2C brands with enhanced reach.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our visions with the New Shop is not just to create that convenience category in India, but also be the go-to distribution platforms for these new ways, MSME, startup, and D2C brands. And so what we've seen is, so there'll be multiple models of quick commerce coming in. Obviously, the ones that are popular right now are more into grocery and food. We are more into convenience store kind of items. You'll see apparels, electronics coming up. Within the D2C space, I think because the adopters of quick commerce are the same kind of audience, the Gen Z and the millennials and the newly coming into the workforce kind of audience and newly married, newly into colleges. So these people, they also want to shop for new age and D2C brands, either offline or online, because we're at both sides. And with technology, what we're doing is obviously creating multiple channels for them to shop, either through our own app, through offline. We've introduced store pickups if you don't want to pay the delivery fees, which will kick in down the line. A lot of customers are using that. Within transit locations like airports or waiting lounges at railway stations, what we're doing is setting up these quick order kiosks. So when you order it, then someone will deliver it from the store at the airport, at your boarding gate within like 10-15 minutes. So I think quick commerce as a definition will get into quick access. If you see internationally, like players like GoPuff or Gade, they're doing models like store pickups, opening up their dark store to physical stores as well, because not just that it helps in reducing your costs, for a customer it's very convenient. So for example, bulk of our 70+ stores are in the heart of residential neighborhoods. So for a customer, rather than to always order online, it makes sense to just go out there, walk in for like 5 minutes and pick their order up. And we're seeing this happening all the time. With D2C brands, we're extending now our tech to really see what's going at store level, at customer level, what kind of customer is buying it. A lot of brands we're helping with, should they even launch the product, we'll be able to tell you if that packaging will work, if that ingredient list will work, if this age group will buy or not. So we're extending that, and I think even in terms of advertising within the offline store or the online store, we're seeing brands come to us for search advertising, like that, something that never heard. So for example, it's Country Delight and they want to target ad results when someone searches for milk. That's also happening. And a lot of D2C brands are now realizing that there are multiple ways to target the customer, cheaper than Amazon and Flipkart and Google right now. And we do want to be that platform where brands are able to do that. So Country Delight, if comes with us and searches milk, then before Amul, it will show Country Delight first. Same thing in offline. What we do is, for example, so we work with a lot of D2C brands. 25% of our sales contribution come from new age and D2C brands. We have a strong proclivity to these brands. And what we do is help these brands by putting them at eye levels, doing a special kind of visual merchandising, running their ads in the television, and also giving them the feedback on the kind of eyeballs and sales they're getting in real time, which none other retailers are doing. And we're introducing that kind of tech into our ecosystem. Even in online, for example, so we're relisting ourselves across marketplaces as well. So Magic Pin, Swiggy, Dunzo, Zomato. And what we've seen is, so for example, I sell burgers, and Jimmy's Cocktails wants to be a part of that listing in Zomato and Swiggy. We're doing that as well. So creating that kind of avenues and multiple touch points where the CAC is very low for the brands, and then give that feedback in terms of reusable data. That's how we're innovating and thinking about the whole quick commerce model and creating that quick access, not just online, but offline in transit locations, corporate offices, colleges, and everything.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think it's amazing that so many businesses are coming up around the entire D2C sector as well, right? Enablers like us, like Shiprocket, to a large extent we are around because all of you great founders have built really great businesses which need online shipping. So no, it's absolutely phenomenal. And now going to Umair, one of the stars of the Shiprocket universe. You really are using technology to help D2C brands create lasting fundamental businesses, right? And brand building is a major part of how you acquire customers, but then retaining customers, technology, data plays a very critical role. So would love to understand on how you are seeing D2C brands evolve, how you are seeing this sector evolve, and how Wigzo is helping brands create a lasting impact.
Thanks, Akshay. I think that's the $70 billion question that we are asking today, because frankly, acquisition, brand building, we've talked a lot about all of these things. But for this sector to go from 70 to 200 billion, it's very critical that brands realize that it's built on loyalty, it's built on repeat purchases, it's built on consumer trust, right? So it all comes down to building that kind of, so how I like to give an example, this is like a pyramid, right? The base of the pyramid is data. That's the data layer. And that data can come into various formats and from various places, from your own D2C website, which is actually the reason why a lot of traditionally strong retail brands are entering, not because the sales, right? For example, Unilever, for them, it's never going to compete with a 20,000 crore business, right? But this is where they can experiment. This is where they can get a lot of data on their consumer. So direct to consumer is a fantastic way to capture that data. But build on that data, how you build your brand, you listen to your consumers and enable, easy, quick, repeat purchase engine for them, right? It's because, like we say, out of sight is out of mind. Typically, if a brand, even a very strong digital presence, but if you're not reaching out to your consumers at the right time, when they're supposed to buy, when they're going to make their purchase decision, the loyalty does not exist because the competition is so high. And there is, the consumer will be browsing Instagram, will be browsing Facebook, and they will get 10 ads of similar category, right? So how do you compete on that? And that is enabled by data to be able to showcase the right person, the right content at the right time on the right channel, right? And that's what the mission that we started with at Wigzo is we will enable brands, direct-to-consumer brands, to be able to do that with simple 2-3 clicks, right? Without lifting, because these are brands, they are brand custodians, they're owners of the brand. If they get into this side, the technology side of it, they are not going to be focusing on building, for example, like, like Bharat was saying, like Amit was saying, building that supply chain, building that brand, building all of that. And they continue to focus on that. So we thought, why not make it easy for brands to understand, analyze, and make data actionable, right? So I think that's the broad concept of what we started with. And, and we've continued to build it. And today, what we are seeing is some of the brands in various categories are generating about 52-53% of their total sales on their D2C channel via people who are placing more than one orders. What it means is that from a time where they were only acquiring customers to a time where today 50% is coming from repeat buyers. And it's 5x cheaper to convert a existing customer than to acquire a new one. So I think direct-to-consumer brands, they're sitting on tons of data. It's only about how they analyze it, how they view it, and what actions they're able to take on this data. But for this industry to go from 70 to 200 billion, a very critical aspect will be how the repeat engines are built over the next couple of years, how the consumer loyalty is captured, not just on their platform, but everywhere, right? Whether you are present on quick commerce, if I buy Jimmy's cocktail for, from Blinkit, right? But now I've ordered it 3 times, and I want to go to Jimmy's cocktail, it should be available in a similar time frame. But once I get that experience from Jimmy's cocktail and they're giving me something exclusive, like a personalized, approach, then I will stick to the brand and I'll continue to shop from their direct to consumer, where their margins are also high. So I think it's like Bharat said, D2C is a mindset. You have to go on all channels, but at the end, you are directly talking to the consumer, not just serving them, but you're talking to the consumer, understanding them, and ensuring that data plays a very crucial role in that. So that's how we've been helping, and obviously Shiprocket for us has been amazing partnership over the last 6 months. We have learned so much from Shiprocket, that those learnings are all going back into our improving our product for MSMEs, for new age brands, for brands who are at a journey where if we can take this portion from them and solve this, it's a big lift from their shoulders. So I think, but it's a long way to go still, and it's a long journey, and hopefully, we'll continue to have support of Shiprocket and all of you guys, in fact.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things you said, which is very true, right? D2C, it's a new buzzword in the industry. Everyone's talking about it. But as a concept, the mindset has been around for many, many years. The day a Nike wanted to open their own store rather than just sell through multi-brand outlets, that was the first form of D2C that we saw. So the online D2C brands and the new age startups that have come up are obviously the newest phase of the D2C story. But as a story, it's been around for many, many years. And a lot of brands, if you speak to every brand owner, the first thing they always say is they want to own the customer experience, right? They want to own the narrative, because they have a philosophy, a thinking behind the brand. It doesn't have to be a luxury brand. Any brand really wants to communicate its own ethos. And I think the direct-to-consumer channel is really something that's essential, and it's only going to grow. As marketplaces, as stores, as multi-brand outlets become more and more crowded, it'll become even more essential for brands to control that narrative. And starting with that, and thank you, Sanil, for waiting for so long. I know we have a very large panel today, so thank you all for being very patient with me. One of the best things I heard this year was when I met you, when you spoke to me about Huddle, and you said you emulate Huddle to be an individual, a millennial who is, and you want the fund to be able to cater to every need from when that person wakes up in the morning to when they sleep at night, and that kind of is a large part of your investing ethos. You've obviously made multiple investments over the last year in many different sectors. Would love to understand how you evaluate D2C brands. When you look at investing in a D2C brand, what are the criteria you look at, especially given the topic is D2C today, but would love to understand as an investor what your take on this is.
Yeah, no, thanks, Akshay. I think, firstly, I'll just reflect on what you said. At Huddle, being early stage accelerators and investors, we have to back the promise, and I would almost say the obsession of a founder. And when we just look at the panel, to my left and to my right, I think the point that you mentioned, right, daily habits, taking up the entire daily habits from someone's retail needs, and prior to that, someone's grocery requirements, to someone's cocktails. And this is just the right that I spoke about. And to the left, we've got someone's ability to listen to the right kind of music, to try and get the right kind of coffee. I think what we have around us is the new age ecosystem, right? So I think D2C, I'm going to emulate one of the key points. It's a mindset. And the first mindset you have to understand is the founders. It's the most cliched point to mention, but it's the most important. There's a reason why founders go into difficult markets. And when I say the word difficult, it's perceived value of how difficult it is. It's crowded. It's already tapped into. These are all jargons that, if were true, we wouldn't have seen the brands around us today. That's the first part. I think understanding how well your founders know their customers. That's priority number one. The second part of, I think, at Huddle we've understood is, how will your want become a need? Why would you become an obsession now for your user? Because the moment your product is, and I keep using the word obsessed about, they become passionate and they become the first advocates. To what Umair was mentioning, it's important to be able to retarget your customer. And if you can retarget them well enough, they're talking about you at dining sittings, they're probably making your product be consumed in many ways than one. We've seen the consumer ecosystem very closely simply because there's a data to it, right? From just, and I'm again going to just try and bridge as many analogies across the table today, the panel today, is that, just through the new shop's eyes, we can understand how and what product is consumed at a certain hour. I think that's enough for us to understand how do we communicate online if it's a student buying it as opposed to, a family. So I think we have to listen very closely to not only the product being consumed, but also the consumption time period. So there are nuances of data that we really study at Huddle and then understand the value chain we want to be a part of it. So just coming to the last 2 points, I think, Akshay, I think we've realized that it's D2C, again, and I'm going to state a cliche, sometimes gets perceived as just brands. I think when we say D2C and close our eyes, most of us might think of a brand. But in truth, in order for D2C to work, you've got to have the right enablers around you. And what we've seen over the last years, and and again, I speak at a forum where Shiprocket is forefronting a big part of the enablement, is that we've seen enablers grow either as fast, and again, Aryaman's the right statistical genius about this, but I think the part here I'm trying to get to is that we've seen brands and enablers grow at the right time. Especially in the last, maybe post-pandemic era, we've seen a lot of enablers grow. We've got organizations like Wigzo here who've been around and have also enabled the growth of D2C. So we've got to, at our lens, at Huddle, back enablers as well, because we want to create the entire ecosystem to the point that you mentioned our goal is. And I think lastly, I just want to end with what you said. D2C has been way before we knew it, and it's going to continue to stay. But what we have to understand is keep listening to your customer. The best brands in the world might have started with one core product, and their main flagship product a few years later is not what they started with. And that's purely because they've matured with their customer, either through age, either through their consumption pattern, their language, and more important, their propensity to continuously spend on them. But yeah, I hope that sort of answers our vision.
No, thank you so much. And again, given the size of our panel today, I'm going to end with one last question to all the panelists. CII has provided with a great forum has provided us with a great forum today to address many different stakeholders, right? You have people from the government, you have people from industry bodies, you also have a lot of industry participants, both across startups as well as established brands. Would love to, if all of you could just take a minute, and we'll start with Nitin. About where you see the challenges and opportunities around the D2C sector emerging. I know the report covers some of it, but would love to get your opinion on what you see over the next 5 years are going to be the biggest challenges or opportunities, or even a wish list that you have of one thing that you hope changes about the ecosystem, about regulation, and to be able to use this forum to be able to get some of those things out there, because one of the jobs that we do with CII is to try and make sure that the enabling ecosystem, whether it's from the government, whether it's from the industry body side, can help us make really tremendous businesses over the next coming years. So Nitin, why don't I start with you?
I think, Akshay, there are a lot of challenges to grow the business. Actually, if you see over the last few months, you can say, I already mentioned in my earlier statement, like, that quick commerce is coming in the way, like, to grab the contribution from our own website. And yes, actually it is in a way they have shown us the ability to deliver, to get the better consumer experience, to give the better consumer experience to others. So we can actually get that thing, like how can we find out the different dark store warehouses where we can get the opportunity to deliver consumer faster. And that's how, because see, anyways, talking to consumers, the data, getting the right insights from our own data is really, really, good. It's an actionable thing, actionable data you can get. And then, but on the other side, because the CAC is going up, and then the logistic charges are going up, then how can you get the data? Because having our own warehouses at every area is really a tough thing. Is not a feasible thing as well. Being a omni-channel brand, we can actually get that thing through our own set of distributors. We have our own distributors across the cities. We can get that thing as well. But then having, but for all the D2C brands, if we can get the one common platform where we can actually deliver faster to the consumers is I think, and what I think that this will definitely happen, because when you find the challenge, and the entire ecosystem will find out the way out. And that's how I am thinking that it will definitely work, because the D2C opportunity is brighter.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Chakri, what about you?
Yeah, Akshay. I think so. Being in a grocery space, which is a lot highly unorganized at the back end, we see a lot of challenge in terms of organizing this supply chain, because our business is centered around eliminating all the middlemen and connecting directly with the farmer and ensuring that there is infrastructure in place to give a great product from the farmer to the customer. And we started with milk, then we did milk value-added products, and we started with fruits and vegetables. As we are entering a lot of categories, we see that there is a lot of supply chain unorganizedness and complexity, which, if solved by having a larger number of players in the ecosystem solve similar problems, can lead to big farmer benefit as well as consumer benefit. And if policy helps in organizing these supply chains, which are very diverse, very regional, very customized and specific, it can become a very beautiful ecosystem and a good opportunity for everyone. So I think what I'm trying to say is that there is a huge demand side dynamic, but the supply side dynamic should be more organized, can be more organized. And that happens when more people come into this space and more people are encouraged to come into this space.
No, absolutely. I think it creates tremendous value both for the supply side, because they can get more by eliminating middlemen. They can make more money, but at the same time, it reduces timelines, right? Getting the food to our table. A lot of times, time is just unnecessarily spent in the supply chain. So I think that's absolutely critical. Mani, why don't you go next?
I think almost in every interaction I've had with all D2C brands, founders or otherwise, we've seen that one of the biggest challenges that new age brands, or not just D2C, but any kind of new age brand, MSME brands, they're facing is to keep their CAC low, number one, and number two, their over-reliance on these monopolistic platforms like Facebook or Google or Amazon, Flipkart, Instagram, whatever it is. And to be able to, so as the percentage share, for example, in FMCG is only 3% penetration in online. As it continues to expand, the CACs will continue to rise, and to build a sustainable business becomes a huge challenge. I think that's where a lot of enablers like us need to come into the picture and create that kind of a democratic platform where everyone can thrive. And so for that, we need a lot of people coming into this enablement kind of space. And I think the other challenge, obviously, it won't apply to someone like Country Delight, for example, where there's so much retention, but loyalty and retention as a trait is very difficult to achieve. And for example, it's an apparel brand or electronics brand where you buy something once or twice in like 6 months. To create that retention is very difficult, because there are 15 other players playing for the same exact spot in Instagram. And so how do you create that loyalty? How do you create that retention? How do you create that penetration without burning so much money? I think that's where there's a huge challenge for brands everywhere. Even for bigger brands, it's getting very challenging. And we need to really um, think about these problems and come with like actionable solutions to it. That's why platforms like ONDC, Shiprocket, us will help brands get there. But the other thing that I think Nitin mentioned, and I totally agree with, is D2C brands need to come up with an omni-channel strategy. That's the only way to thrive in this market. Even though online is growing, offline is nowhere going back. We've seen our offline sales skyrocket after the third wave, and it'll continue to do so. A lot of people are looking out for that experience, as we see, and online can be a good option and a convenient kind of a mode for customers to shop in, but I think offline is not going anywhere anytime soon. So brands need to come up with their own recipe for omnichannel success. If you see internationally, IKEA, for example, or bigger brands like Best Buy, for example, doing it. They're not D2C per se, but the way they have created that omnichannel strategy, it's really inspirational. We try to follow the footsteps of 7-Eleven or Starbucks, for example, where you have a loyalty program, which is omnichannel. You have a store that is omnichannel. You can do pickups, you can do deliveries, whatever you want. And I think that's how brands need to think about it. And really, to capture that market size, they need to bring that CAC down and get omnichannel as soon as possible.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think one of the most exciting times for me in the last year was when I went into my local supermarket, which is a modern bazaar, and I saw a Country Delight ghee and a delicious meat and poultry product there. It gave me this real thrill. I don't know why. Because very seldom do you see a lot of new age Indian brands really establish themselves and get shelf space, right? You see the big FMCG brands, you see a lot of imported stuff on the shelves there. But when I saw the Country Delight ghee and I saw the delicious seekh kebab there, so to speak, it gave me a lot of thrill. And I agree with you. I think it is all about omni-channel. It can't just be online versus offline is a debate that's ended. It's very much omni-channel. Completely agree with you. Sanil?
So I think the list is quite endless when it comes about opportunities that might occur and that we're bullish about. But if I had to categorize it, we do see a lot of need to create increased experiences for this new age consumer. Now this experience can happen two ways. One is, the ability to get them to shop, particularly and possibly for apparel in the metaverse. That's definitely a area that is around the corner. Having said that, I think experience also comes into the right kind of experience post or pre-checkout. I do believe that we are going to have more and more enablers that are going to get backed. That's on the enablement side, just so that experience is continuously optimized for a new age, more informed and socially informed consumer. The other side of it, I think on the brand play, where we are at least keeping a keen eye, is the ability to try and back and build the right kind of plant-based ventures, because we do see, in the whole element of, climate change and climate tech as a key thesis of us, the consumption pattern is of the same socially conscious consumer to also consume whatever they might be consuming today, but that might be slightly, cleaner and greener and more beneficial for the environment on the whole. So we are seeing a lot of innovation coming there. I'm definitely not practicing what I preach right now, but I do believe that too is around the corner. And pass it over to Bharat.
Sure, I think most of my challenges have already been listed. So I don't know of a new challenge. It's definitely, I think, so we, as I mentioned, we focused on omnichannel from day zero. So that has helped us really well. We have almost 125 distributors pan-India today. From somewhere in Ladakh to somewhere in Kochi, Kanyakumari to somewhere in Dimapur, you will find our products. And I think that part is where we've seen maximum challenges to be able to do this. And we're still kind of scratching the surface here. But to be able to do this takes a lot from a startup. so many things have to go right, especially in our category, which sits offline, but the brand building is happening online. You know, the influence, influencing the customer is happening online. Like, we're trying to change their consumption patterns online, but drive offline throughput. So I think that's a huge challenge, and companies and brands that do end up doing or kind of executing this will win eventually. I think a lot of these challenges have already been mentioned, but I think one more challenge which I see as a fundamental challenge, which also led to rising CACs, is market correction. I think overall market correction is really going to benefit us all in the long term. It's definitely just a phase that we're going through. The promoter mentality, the founder mentality is something that is very, very critical right now, because hawa mein bahut kuch ho jata hai. When there's a lot of noise, a lot of people want to enter, but people with 5-10 lakhs of savings end up losing all of that in one day on Amazon or Facebook ads or so on and so forth. So my point is, even there will be better founders who will build for the right reasons, since the markets are tough, which I look at as an opportunity.
Yeah, I think just to every challenge is an opportunity. I think my biggest view is next 5 years are going to be completely different from the last 5 years for D2C space. I think our point of view is that there are going to be 5 mega trends which will be very different from the last 5 years. One, as of today, it's only a 12 billion market, but in the next 5 years, it's going to be 60 billion, right? That's closer to, let's say, an automotive market, right? It's a large enough industry. And what that means is it's going to create its own ecosystem and supplier opportunities when that space becomes large enough, right? Secondly, there are not as many scaled D2C brands as of today, but maybe in the next 5 years, there'll be very large D2C brands. And when you have large brands, they behave very differently, and the nature of challenges and what you need to solve for becomes very different. Third thing is, with the rise in, again, going back to disposable income per capita growth, whatever disposable income growth happens, a majority of that is going to go in discretionary categories. That means that the growth in discretionary categories and the opportunity for category creation is going to be even higher in the next 5 years. The other thing is, till now, traditional brands have not been very, very excited about the D2C and internet space, but that's not going to be true in the next 5 years. We are going to see a lot of competition from the large, Unilevers, ITCs, Godrejas, etc., to create phenomenal presence, into the D2C and the internet space. As soon as, now we've reached a 4-5% penetration, they see that much sales happening online. And the last is, the capital raising cycle is going to be tougher, at least for the next 2 years, if not for the 5. So raising capital, focus on economics, etc., is going to be much more important. What that means is, categories like home decor, accessories, lifestyle, electronics, right, beyond the basic necessities are going to women health, right, are going to see a lot of growth. In terms of ecosystem opportunity, Akshay, even players like Shiprocket, you will need to go much deeper into creating services, SaaS products for companies. There is going to be a lot of business model innovation. You see players like, Narang, Universal, who've created offline distribution. D2C brands, when they scale, they'll need offline distribution partners. You'll see businesses which will be created solely for offline distribution, performance marketing, a lot of brand management. Large D2C brands will need to invest a lot into their own supplier ecosystem development. Right now, you've not seen that problem yet, but as soon as you scale beyond, let's say, 1,000 crore top line, right, you will need to see that, hey, your suppliers need to be developed, they need to have the right pipeline so that your raw material supply, is not getting affected. It also means that international will become very important. How do you distribute your products to other geographies? And of course, product is always the king. You need to continuously re-engineer. You'll have a lot of opportunity to contract manufacture, with the whole government PLI-linked schemes, it's important to locally start building your ecosystem. That's, at least, from my side, a couple of, opportunities I see.
What Aryaman has said, I believe India is a land of opportunities where, we are at a single-digit penetration when we compare to other developed countries. So and whatever problem everybody has stated, I think these are problems, but we are evolving with time and we keep on solving it. And honestly, government support is there in our space, the kind of PLI scheme. So there is a manufacturing PLI where they are subsidizing or supporting Indian manufacturers or brands and not Chinese. It's a good support. But I think the problem lies with a 5-year challenge. I feel it's gonna be more internal because why we all are successful because we are very agile, we are very nimble. Vis-a-vis when you look at companies like bigger Unilevers and all, a decision take ages for them to make. And in startups, we all can take a decision over a table, and that's why we are successful. So we call it fail fast, make mistakes, recover from it. So I think with scale, if we're able to maintain that, we will be successful. Otherwise, we'll be falling in our own trap. And second, I believe in creating that experience seamless across all, because these all the bigger brands were never taking this D2C segment seriously. But the kind of way they are coming up, the kind of investments they are making, in fact, they have established separate verticals who are going to be leading D2C. So fighting them and staying nimble could be a big challenge in long run for us.
I think everything has been already spoken, but very quickly, I think there is between the 4 large D2C brands that we have, one of the biggest opportunities that I see and continues to hear from the founders is these brands, when they acquire X amount of customers, and today, like I said, 4 big, large D2C brands, they must be having access to close to about 2 million Indian consumers, right? A lot of these brands can actually co-sell. And however, there is infrastructurally, it's not available right now, where they can easily co-sell without actually, violating any data laws or without any actual sharing of PIIs. So I think one of the biggest opportunities that lie as the system evolves is how the brands are going to collaborate. And a lot of brands are going to say, okay, Noise, for example, goes really well with Rage. How these 2 founders can get together in a room and decide, and not just decide, but actually execute on a level that consumers who are receiving Noise headphones can get maybe like a introduction to Rage Coffee, and it's awareness and building. So that's, I think, the biggest opportunity that lies. And I think second is building on user-generated content, which I feel that I think as a mindset in D2C space, everything has been pushed toward paid advertising, right? Quick results, very quick, ROI. But I feel that the slow medium, that SEO back in the day, it is possible today. It's possible on visual mediums like Instagram, like Facebook. But it needs a lot of user-generated content, and it doesn't need to be exorbitantly influencer-driven as well, right? So I think these are the 2 large opportunities that I personally am seeing as I speak to a lot more founders. So these are 2 big opportunities that personally we've also been working to try and find solution and build data products around it, and how can we solve them.
Absolutely, and thank you, everyone. I think I'll just end with one thing. I think the biggest opportunity personally that I see is the fact that all the people around this table have created a success story and a role model for so many more entrepreneurs in this country who would now want to set up their own brands, want to set up their own businesses. I think that there isn't a week that goes by where I meet someone who at some point when I talk to them about Shiprocket is like, you know what, I used Shiprocket a year ago, I'm using Shiprocket because I used to sell online. And by the way, that never happened 3-4 years ago. And as much as pride as I take on the fact that they're talking about my company as well, but I take a greater amount of pride in the fact that almost every person I speak to at some point has become an entrepreneur, whatever they might be selling online, right? And I think that's the spirit of entrepreneurship, and a large part of it is obviously propelled by the success stories and the role models that you guys are for this new generation of entrepreneurs in the country. And again, want to take my heartfelt gratitude to you guys for coming here today, helping us make this report launch a success. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who attended today.